Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susanna Suisuiki. Coming up.
This conversation is probably being monitored by Samoan.
PNG's Allan Bird addresses the death threats. Also,
sorry to say, but that's pretty typical of the way Washington often has treated the Pacific Islands.
US President Joe Biden finally signs the compact agreement after a 5-month delay. And Wellington's Basin Reserve makes history as it hosts its first Kilikiki tournament. Papua New Guinea MP Allan Bird has addressed recent death threats against him following his nomination as the opposition candidate for Prime Minister. He told RNZ Pacific he's declined police protection and is opting to put his confidence in using his own security. Alicia Foon spoke with Allan Bird about the unfolding situation. Due to the connection issues within PNG, we apologise for the audio quality.
The threats against my life, and they wanted to assign me close protection policeman, which I declined. I prefer to have my own security. I informed the Deputy Prime Minister of these threats. And I've just left it at that. But given that it's, I've heard a few more threats are in fact active, so I thought probably the best way to deter it would be to put it out in the public domain so people know that, we are aware and we are taking the necessary precautions.
Has there been anything
that will work as a deterrent? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, has there been anything else out of the ordinary that has happened to you?
Well, I'm told that my phone is being monitored illegally. So, this conversation is probably being monitored by Samoan. That was when I called a senior minister to talk to, and he said, "Look, I'll be talking to you because your phone is being monitored." And so we had to figure out another way to have the discussion. And then I've heard that certain agencies of government have been directed to investigate me and dig up whatever dirt they can find, and if possible, prosecute me. And I've that verified also. There are written instructions to the effect that I have cited myself.
So those are quite serious allegations. Why do you think this is happening, and has this been confirmed by multiple senior ministers or just one senior minister?
There's been 3 senior ministers so far. And so I'm just not talking to them anymore. But in terms of the investigations and so on and so forth, I have cited official communications between certain departments in writing, copies of which I have in my possession.
And so how are you functioning in Papua New Guinea? How has your approach to daily life changed knowing this information?
Well, I sort of expected it because that's the sort of way Papua New Guinea has been developing over the last several years. So I kind of expected it. But at the same time, like, my own province is fairly safe. And so if things get pretty bad in the capital, all I got to do is go back home. And I'm quite secure at home. But other than that, no, just keeping a low profile, not really moving around, just restricting my movements and things like that.
Mm. You've called yourself the most dangerous criminal in Papua New Guinea, saying that, I guess, state institutions looking to find anything illegal on you, to charge you and arrest you. Do you have anything to hide? And that's quite a strong stance.
In fact, those that called me up saying, look, we've got government agencies here questioning us on certain issues pertaining to, I said to them, well, look, if you have any information, just give it to them. So as far as I know, I got nothing to hide. So apparently they haven't found any dirt. What I do understand is that they're trying to connect me as one of the masterminds behind the Black Wednesday event in Port Moresby. So I'm told that's something that they're trying to do now, to try and connect me to that, because they can't find anything fraudulent. I've never been involved in the issuing of a contract or anything of the nature. I've never interfered with the public servants that work with me, so they can't find anything there. So they're looking to connect me to the Black Wednesday events in Port Moresby.
And what was that, for those who are unaware?
Sorry?
What are
Remember the riots in Port Moresby, where shops were looted and burnt and people killed?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to link me to that, which, is going to be almost impossible, because I was out of the country prior to that happening. So, I don't know how they intend to connect me to that. But that's one discussion. And then I understand they're looking now at all my travel allowances, overseas travel allowances. So they're looking at that to see what they can find. So that's the extent to which they're going to try to...
RNZ Pacific are awaiting comments from PNG Police regarding Allan Bird's allegations. The US President Joe Biden has signed into law the Compact of Free Association agreements after a 5-month delay. The agreements passed the US Senate on Friday and has a combined dollar figure of $7.1 billion. The new agreements include an additional 20 years of funding at higher levels for the freely associated states of Marshall Islands, Palau and the Federated States of Micronesia. RNZ Pacific correspondent Giff Johnson says after months of dysfunction, US Congress finally figured out how to pass the compacts.
Now the funding that was agreed to for now through 2043 can actually be provided. The various services and money, and the money from the U.S. goes up significantly to all three freely associated states in this new compact funding agreement. And so next steps are each of the three islands has to approve the compact. And the president's office issued a statement yesterday saying that the Nidhi the parliament here, would soon be reviewing a resolution to endorse the compact. That would be coming up soon. Apparently, the FSM president, Simina, is to be in Washington soon, maybe the end of the month, something like that, and will sign off on some documents that will allow the compact to be implemented. So things are moving.
Okay, and just to passing the Senate, as we spoke about, that took 5 months longer than what people would have wanted it to take. In that delay, do you think there was any damage done by the US in regards to its relationship with the rest of the Pacific?
If you look at what the leaders said publicly, they wrote letters to the U.S. Congress. President Heine, President Simina, President Whips from Palau, they all wrote really strongly worded letters about how this was impacting their countries. Number one, not being able to move into the higher funding that was promised because the Congress hadn't approved the New Deal. And secondly, that it increased the potential for activity related to China. And, particularly for Palau and the Marshall Islands, they're Taiwan connected, right? Diplomatic relations with Taiwan. So that's still a big issue for them. And, did it do long-term damage? That's hard to say. But it just, it shows that I think in a certain way that the negotiations were done. Everybody signed it back in, last year. And then there was just this lull, and they were kind of backburnered for a while. And sorry to say, but that's pretty typical of the way Washington often has treated the Pacific Islands.
Just going back to China and what those leaders were saying about China, do you think there was any real risk of those leaders moving closer towards China? Because that's what it almost sounded like in those letters.
I think Palau may have a bigger issue because of its tourism industry. And there's a lot of Chinese investment in hotels. And in the past, they've had a very significant impact on the Palau tourism industry through tourists. China cut that off a few years ago to try to force Palau to change to diplomatically recognized China. I mean, it just hammered their economy because it was like overnight China turned off 50% of their tourism industry. But the Palauan leaders said that isn't the way we do business, and stuck with Taiwan. But so there's more, I think, of an issue. Marshall Islands doesn't, I mean, it has small scale Chinese investment and whatnot, but we don't have a tourism industry to speak of. So from China's point of view, I suppose the real pressure point here is the ship registry, which is the third largest in the world and flags a lot of oil tankers. And who's the largest consumer of fuel in the world? Well, China. So China can do things to any of the fleets that are flying Marshall Islands flags, put them at the end of the line, charge them more, things like that. So, there are things like this that happen out here. But on the ground, I doubt this will have much impact on the ground here in the Marshall Islands. I mean, it's been done now, right? So now it's just up to the Parliament here to decide what it wants to do and move forward.
Earlier on, you said the delay was quite typical of the US and how it treats the Pacific. What do you think the delay means for Pacific nations outside of the North Pacific? Do you think it could have any impact?
I think there's a couple of things here that are interesting when you think about the wider Pacific and U.S. promises about, like reestablishing its presence and delivering on things like it's back in the game the way it wasn't for a few years. And the problem is, number one, when people see this kind of a delay, they wonder, right? They wonder what the commitment is. Although, frankly, it's just the U.S. government system. It's not a parliament, and you've got to go through the different branches. But secondly, what I think may be a bigger issue for a lot of the Pacific area is the fact that the U.S. government has still not fully addressed the Marshall Islands nuclear testing legacy that it caused. And, around the Pacific, people are very aware, particularly leaders, but I'd say even, like people who work in the NGO community, people all over, they're really aware that the Marshall Islands has had a terrible situation with these 67 nuclear tests and health problems and dislocations of people and can't go back to islands and, so on and so forth. And it's like, you go, well, the Marshall Islands and the freely associated states, they're the number one allies of the U.S. in the Pacific. And yet the U.S. government won't address the nuclear problems that it caused. I mean, yeah, it's doing a little. It's doing some things that are good, and that's fine, but it's not doing enough. And it did not take the opportunity of the third compact negotiation to do it. And so as a result, we have a compact that does not mention the word nuclear. And I'm sure that a lot of people around the Pacific just look at that and they can't understand it. I mean, this is America's best friend. So to me, that's really a bigger issue in the long run, because people in the region, I mean, for example, we had Secretary General Henry Puna from the Pacific Islands Forum here for March 1 last week, or 10 days ago now, the 70th anniversary of the Bravo hydrogen bomb test. And he came up and he was, he's very close to the issue. And, he sees it and people in the forum see it. So I just think it plays badly for the United States and the wider Pacific.
Meanwhile, thousands of people are being impacted by droughts in the Federated States of Micronesia. Yap, Chuuk, Pohnpei and Kosrae have all been experiencing drier than normal weather since December, with the US National Weather Service predicting things are likely to worsen under current El Niño conditions. The United Nations Children's Fund says people in affected communities are in desperate need of food and water. Koroi Hawkins spoke with the Fund's FSM Field Office Chief, Cromwell Bakareza, about the situation on the ground.
First of all, my good afternoon, kia ora, Radio New Zealand listeners. Kasalalia to one and all, sending my warm Micronesian greetings all the way from the North Pacific. So thank you for having me today to discuss a very important topic, which is the drought in Micronesia, mainly affecting the 4 states of the FSM, the Pohnpei, Kosrae, Yap, and Chuuk states. As many of you may know, Micronesia is a region consisting of hundreds of islands in the North Pacific, and is currently facing severe drought conditions. And some of the islands have experienced damages due to king tides as well. So to date, the FSM has compiled, I think, around 45 initial damage assessment reports, and it has enumerated the impact across the various states. So based on these reports, there is more or less 16,000 affected people affected in the drought and storm surge. 40% of them are estimated to be children. They urgently need water, food, wash dignity kits, and the drought isn't just about dry conditions or for the king tide saltwater intrusion. No? It's about the livelihoods of the people, the sustainability of their agriculture, and affecting the way of life of communities across these islands. So the situation poses significant challenges to the livelihoods, agriculture, and of course, overall well-being of the people living in this vulnerable region. Right now, Micronesia is coping out with severe droughts, with rainfall at very low levels, causing water sources to be scarce as it already is, especially in the outer islands. So it's a situation that demands our attention and collective action.
Droughts in the Pacific, obviously on and off. Is this particularly related to the current El Nino event? And what is UNICEF doing and how are you responding to, I guess, the ongoing situation with droughts also in the region?
The current drought emergency in Micronesia, I would say, is not an isolated incident, but rather a grim reminder for everyone of the impacts of climate change on vulnerable communities, particularly these small island states. Rising temperatures, changing weather patterns, and more frequent extreme weather events are all contributing to the severity of the droughts in the region. No? So as what you clearly said, it's off and on. So this situation now exacerbates already existing vulnerabilities that the small islands are already experiencing, and putting additional strain on already fragile ecosystems. And in Micronesia, where many communities rely heavily on rain-fed agriculture and fresh source of fresh water, the consequences of prolonged drought can have long-term effects on food security, water availability, and most of all, public health, especially where children and other vulnerable populations will be greatly affected.
What support is being provided to affected people, and what are some of the challenges for responders?
UNICEF is actively engaged in providing vital support to the affected communities. One of our key interventions is the distribution of wash dignity kits, which are essential for maintaining hygiene and ensuring access to clean water. These kits contain items such as soap, water containers, hygiene products, nappies, even emergency items like a torch and other stuff. No? And we hope that this will somehow bridge in addressing critical needs during these challenging times. So these supplies are sourced from our prepositioned stocks. We have prepositioned supplies from our shared warehouse with IOM in the state of Chuuk, state of Yap, which enabled us to respond in a much efficient manner. So further to this, our efforts are closely coordinated with government authorities, which the response is basically spearheaded by the state and national governments to ensure effective delivery and distribution of these supplies. Collaboration with partners is really essential because these islands that were affected by the drought are so remote, and with a geographical spread and limited logistical options, limited transport, it is important that all stakeholders under the leadership of the state and national governments come together. So in addition to providing immediate relief through these supplies, UNICEF is also engaged in long-term initiatives to make sure that these communities will be more resilient and better prepared in addressing or in facing this calamity, these disasters in the future. So we would like to invest in sustainable but resilient solutions for the community.
Obviously, children face the brunt of a lot of the issues and impacts of the climate crisis. It's an area that you specialize in. How have children been impacted by the current drought situation?
The drought in Micronesia is impacting children in many ways. It presents challenges both in the immediate and the long term. When there is drought, access to clean water is severely compromised. And oftentimes, during emergencies, when there is inadequate or scarcity of water, the rise of water-related diseases such as diarrhea peaks. So, which not only affect children's hydration, but also expose them to waterborne diseases, and illnesses. So many families are struggling to provide adequate nutrition to their children because agriculture is also affected. In the reports that we receive, a lot of those taro patches are ruined by the drought. So traditional local food supply is also affected. So this can lead to possible food insecurity and malnutrition among children. In addition to that, the scarcity of water this also disrupts daily routines. For instance, when water is not available, chances are the schools will also be closed, so depriving children of their right to access to education, for instance. And in addition to this, also the stress and uncertainty caused by the drought can provide or can result to psychological effects on children, affecting their mental health and emotional well-being. It's crucial to, again, recognize that children are the most vulnerable members of the society, especially in outer islands where resources are very limited.
The Basin Reserve has seen more New Zealand cricket test matches and test victories than any other ground. And on Saturday, history was made at the ground when Kilkiki, also known as Samoan cricket, was played. Moratulai Patela has the story.
The bright colours of the Pacific graced what many believe is the home ground of cricket in Aotearoa. Te mātou tokelau, Pulu Awhi Hutt Valley. Valley Bears and Porirua Kilikiti Club took to the pitch on Saturday, wearing their team colours with pride. Whaalongo Leonava A of the Ministry of the Pacific Peoples says the dream to play at the Basin Reserve for the Pacific community in Wellington has been a long one.
And this is the first time, so it's been a lot of gratitude that we're here. A lot of the communities, like today, we've had the Niuean, we've had the Tongans, obviously the Tokelau's are here and say, we've got to do more of this. It's a sport that can bring our community together.
He says you can always expect to see dancing and hear singing at a Kilikiti game, off and on the field.
Talking to some of our Cricket Wellington colleagues, some of Europeans and even a lot of Pacific kids who've never seen the game before. And they're going, wow, there's dancing on there, there's mocking, there's laughing. absolutely fantastic.
There are some similarities to cricket, such as a batting team and a fielding team. However, for a kilikiti team, you can have as many players as you want. And the other obvious difference is the bat kilikiti players use, which is modelled on a three-sided Samoan war club. Former All Black Victor Vito, who was part of the celebrities team, says it was great seeing everyone come out and support the event.
Having all the kids and families here, obviously all our Samoan Ainga and families here to support the cricket teams, and obviously there was a fun game in the middle there that I had a chance at playing, so that was good fun, and everyone's enjoying themselves.
The captain of team Te Mātau Tokelau, Puka Apeneru, says it's been special playing at the Basin Reserve.
You know, it's a big occasion, play on the Holy Grail, the Basin Reserve, to showcase our skills. So it's been awesome.
Tokelauan leader Les Denisi Atoni says the day was a great opportunity for his community.
It's a milestone for us, and we reflect back on the past, on our parents and passed on, and a day like this, we certainly remember them. We've made it to the home of cricket, New Zealand.
Fa'alongo says the organising committee is speaking with Cricket Wellington about holding future events at the venue.
A partnership between New Zealand's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade and Wearing Fiji led to a week-long exchange program where 3 emerging Fijian fashion designers were in Aotearoa to broaden their knowledge of the global fashion landscape. As part of the exchange, the Fijian-based fashion cohort spent some time with leading Kiwi designer Karen Walker. I caught up with Samson Lee, the founder of one of Fiji's renowned fashion labels and mentor at Wearing Fiji.
Well, I think what brought us here was this good relationship that we have with the Ministry of Foreign and Trade Affairs. I would like to thank MFAT in particular just for creating this exchange program with our Wearing Fiji project from Fiji. Wearing Fiji project is basically a non-profit organization where established designers in Fiji kind of give back to young emerging designers. So everything's free. We all do not get paid for this. There's no proper fashion school in Fiji, so this is kind of our way of kind of nurturing young emerging designers of what fashion in Fiji is all about. So during our program, we do a 6-month program, and there's a curriculum that's had been created by one of our mentors and a designer, Robert Vermbasanga. He takes them through this 6-month program. So out of our program, we have 6 established designers. I think I know Hapil Herda, Robert, Andrew Powell, Temasia, Natalia, and myself. So having said that, we do put out this application form that goes out. We had over 70 applicants last year, and we narrowed it down only to 3. The reason being 3, we had feedback in the past that a lot of the students wanted to have more time with the mentors, and it was just easier for us to kind of share our knowledge between all the mentors. So, for example, Robert and Andrew are very skilled pattern makers. They were trained overseas, so they kind of provide that information of like pattern making and structure and cutting, forecasting with our students. I tend to go more on the business aspect because I own a small boutique, and same as Natalia, she owns a little factory, so they go get to see a factory tour of how everything's kind of like made in production before it comes out on the racks in a little shop or boutiques. And then we have Nexau, the co-founder, and Temasia, who are big into PR and branding. So they go over just like your web pages and how to create your brand, how to just kind of stay relevant and just to make your brand known. Yeah. So I think having said that, last year we had the opportunity to partner up with MFAT. That was the first year that we actually got the ball rolling, and I was so happy that this all worked out because we got to bring 3 students here from our cohort just to come and see what New Zealand fashion is all about. The difference between Fiji and New Zealand is that you guys have so much more. You guys have proper universities that actually focus on just, fashion education and textile. And it was so nice for us to go to Whitecliff yesterday and AUT, just to be in that creative space and just to see all these other like first year students. And then we were at Whitecliff when we were third year students, just to see them in that element of working. And I think for our students, they were just so like happy, and it was just like taking a kid to a candy shop. Like, they were just like, wow, seeing just the cutting tables, the machines and the mannequins, and seeing kids deconstruct the shed. It was just like one of those things that like, oh my gosh, like they so wanted to be here. So just having this relationship, and I think us coming to New Zealand to learn so much about what they have to offer, and taking the information back and letting other Fiji designers that will want to really pursue this as a career, that there are, universities that offer this. I think in Fiji we always tend to go to Australia for, like, especially for fashion school. I think they keep forgetting that New Zealand also offers this. So this is such a good opportunity for us to actually be here and actually see what they have to offer.
I understand as part of your program here in New Zealand is working alongside Karen Walker.
Yes.
Tell me about that experience. What was that like?
Okay, so Karen, she's just amazing. I think Karen is on another level of levels. For Fiji, we're like really, really small scale. We had a 2-hour session with her today. I think Heather would be the best person to talk about Karen because she had the whole week. For us today, just a short amount of time, the 2-hour session we had with her, we got to meet her whole creative team, the production, her marketing department, and just to go to see how much work they put into getting just one small thing out, which is like forecasted to come out next year. Just the preparation it takes, come out of swatches, the sampling, learning so much. So we only aspire to be like her one day, and I think that's the main goal. But she's just such an amazing person that's got so much knowledge and knows what she's doing, and we're so grateful that she opened her doors for us and allowed us to come in and be part of to share her fashion journey with us.
Speaking of fashion journey, I want to talk about your journey. How did you come about establishing your fashion label?
Oh, thank you. So in 2015 I started my brand. This is my 9th year designing. I started off because I lost my sister to cancer, and at that moment of time I realized that life was too short. I really wanted to pursue my dreams of fashion. Fashion has always been a part of me, has always been an extension of my personality. Always wanted to do it, always went to all the fashion shows in Fiji. All my friends were kind of in the creative space of being dancers, musicians, artists, and so it was very easy for me to start, and I also hung out with other fashion designers. So I kind of got to know a little bit about it before I started. I then my parents moved to San Francisco. They migrated, so I would spend a lot of time going up and then reflecting. So one year I came back, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do this. Like I said in my interviews, sometimes in Fiji or in the Pacific, a lot of times our parents think that art is something that won't pay the bills. You go to school, go get your degree, and go do that blue-collar job, or something like that. So it was one of those things where I also had to prove to them that I can do this as a business and this can sustain me. So I then just launched my collection online on social media, and it just took off every other week. I got orders within 2 years of me working online and operating from my garage. I opened a boutique in Suva, and I've had that boutique ever since. And it's been 9 years now, still going strong, still keeping that alive, my dream, and I hope to keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already made a name for yourself in Fiji fashion, right?
Oh, thank you. I hope so.
How would you describe the fashion landscape in Fiji?
Okay, so the fashion industry in Fiji is like growing very fast. We have Fashion Week. We also have our Wearing Fiji project. The only problem is that a lot of designers, I think, they can't pull through in the sense of being a creative and also running a business. There's just two things, so I think just having the proper balance. We see a lot of designers come and then kind of finish after a while just because probably just from the business aspect, costings are probably not right, and I think that's so important with running your own business. You kind of have to have that business side to things. So I'm very grateful that I did go to university and I studied social work, which is way different from fashion, but that kind of prepared me to like deal with people. Also, those GE classes of taking math and all that really paid off because you kind of get to, do proper cost and actually know how to price a garment. Little things like that is so important. It's not just the big price of like, oh, the dress is $300. There's so much more effort. It's the print, it's the design, it's your time, it's your rent, it's your staff. So things are all factored in. A lot of times you're like, oh my gosh, that's so expensive, but they don't realize the amount of work that's been put into it, and for us to operate and sustain and also have longevity in business, you really have to, do costings that are right in order for you to be in the business and stay relevant and
You speak extensively about the realities of running a fashion label. What other challenges do designers such as yourself experience as well?
One thing in Fiji that I know that we experience is finding proper seamstresses, tailors, and I think when you find the right person, keep them. Also, access to fabric. We're very limited with fabric. We had the opportunity to go to some of your fabric shops here, such as I think Nick's Fabric and the Fabric Shop, and just to see the variety of fabric and the way it was organized, it was like, wow. Fiji is slowly getting there, but I think a lot of times people always look to us and be like, why are you using synthetic fabric? And that's what we have, that's what they offer. So we're just making use of what we have in Fiji. If we had more fabric suppliers and digital printers that could print on cotton linen, obviously we'll be shifting that way. But because we don't have that, we kind of just work with what we have. And I think that's where we're going. Obviously the end goal is to be using, natural fibers and really being about, all that. So hopefully someone in Fiji comes and brings that machine so we can all just start, moving towards that. Yeah.
Besides the resources, what's something that you'll take away from this trip that you'll apply to your business back home in Fiji?
Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to take away so much, learning so much from this Karen just today about campaigning, marketing, just curating your content. There's just so much more. There's this one picture you can see that's like, I think for most human beings it's like, oh yeah, but they don't realize how much work's been put into it. What's the whole concept behind the branding? Why is it shot like that? They're focusing on an umbrella or rain boots, and like the seasons, it's just we spoke about that, to be constantly evolving. You kind of have to keep turning out stock. So they don't do stock like how other people do, like spring, summer, every month, because there's a buyer that wants to come in and see something different. So I think learning all of that and just taking it in, I definitely want to apply that in my life. Also just being inspired just by the landscape, the buildings, the art. Being in your museum, the art gallery, we went to the Gope exhibition. There's so much to take in, and we're still processing, but it's just been such an amazing opportunity, and we're just super happy to be here and just thanking the New Zealand government again for their support.
Yeah. Love that. And what do you think, Karen, people like Karen Muka, what do you think they've taken away from you?
I think with Karen, when they were talking about a designer coming to Fiji and they mentioned her name, I'd always known about Karen because I love her eyewear and what I related with her in the sense that she gives back to a lot to the community. A lot of people don't know that one of her dresses was actually with the Cook Island Mamas, that went up to London for an exhibition. So she really gets involved, and I think she's very passionate about what she does. She may come up if you see some of her videos, very strong, but she's just a very sweet person to be around, very driven, and I just love the way she works, her work ethic. When she came to Fiji to judge our show, every time you always see on her laptop, it was working as well. There was other things. She got some time to relax, but you can just tell that they're so passionate about the work they do that they're just it's just when you love your job, you kind of just breathe it. You wake up looking forward to it. So I think that's for us creators and designers. I think that's the main purpose of what we do, is that we love what we do. So yeah.
So you want to wake up and be like, I can't wait to get to work.
Yeah, not be kind of oh my gosh, it's another day. Finish at 5 already.
Oh, I love it. And what advice do you have for other up-and-coming Pacific fashion designers?
Oh my gosh. Like I said, I think earlier in my interview today, I would just say, if you have this passion to do something you really love, do it. Most of the time, as Pacific Islanders, especially as Fijians, we tend to weigh the negatives before the pros. And it's always like, what if? You won't know until you try. I took a chance by creating my pieces. I didn't use any platform except social media. Didn't use runways or fashion shows. It was solely just going online and trying to make my dream come alive, and it turned out. And I always tell people, you only find out if you do it. If you fail, hey, get up, do something else. But if it's going to work, then go for it. So, yeah.
It was a busy weekend full of sports in and around the Pacific region. Joining me for a weekly sports talanoa is our senior sports journalist, Iliesa Tora. Pula Iliesa, big weekend for the Fijian Drought and Crusaders tomorrow. What will the teams need to do to win their first Super Rugby game in 2024?
Yes, definitely. The Fijian Drought and the Crusaders will need to win this weekend's third round of the Super Rugby Pacific Series. The Drought is hosting the defending champions in Lautoka on Saturday. 2 rounds without any wins, and they now square off against each other. Definitely will be a lot of pressure on both teams. The Drought playing at home in their first home match of the season, and will be needing a win to kickstart their home series, which have 7 lined up this year. And the Crusaders, having lost to the Chiefs and then the Waratahs in both away matches, will go into their third away match this weekend, and they will also be looking for that win for the 2024 season. They've both named strong lineups, and expecting the Crusaders to turn up the heat. One of the thing going for the Drought probably is the home fan base. Quite a big home fan base in Lautoka. Over the past 2 years, we have seen that. And, of course, playing at 1 o'clock Fiji time, 2 o'clock here, that will be in the heat. And it'll be interesting to see how the Crusaders, live up to that, being able to take on the home fans and the heat. I definitely think it will be a close game. The end result would depend on which team is still running in the last quarter.
Moana Pasifika hosts the Rebels of Melbourne and Hamilton. How do you think that clash will go?
Definitely an interesting game also for Moana Pasifika, who will be looking to record their second win in the competition this year after they defeated the Drought last weekend. Head coach Whalongo Tana Umanga has made some changes in his backline, and he said that he expects the lineup that he has got, despite some injuries to some of the key players who missed last weekend's game, he's still confident that the team that has been selected will be able to get the job done against the Rebels. The Rebels, of course, fighting to keep afloat. They have an uncertain future ahead of them as far as the franchise is concerned, financial-wise. But definitely, that should be an exciting game again. But Moana Pasifika, if they do what they did against the Drought last weekend in Melbourne, they should be able to come home with their second win in the season. But of course, they will need to keep consistently going in the full 80 minutes of the game.
Lots of news coming out of the Rugby House in Suva. Can you give us an update on the latest with Fiji Rugby?
Yes, Fiji Rugby has been in the limelight over the past few weeks. 2 things, of course, happening. First, Ben Gollings, the coach of the Sevens team, has gone 19 tournaments in the World Rugby 7 Series without a title win, and that has irked a lot of calls from local fans, even Prime Minister Sithiben Rambuka joining in the bandwagon at the weekend, calling for decisions to be made. And the Fiji Rugby Union last night gave Ben Gollings the boot. They've sacked Ben Gollings as coach. They've taken on Osea Kolinisau, who was the captain of the Fiji Sevens team for a number of years, including the first Olympic gold medal win in 2016, where Colin Sau was captain. He is now the new seventh coach to take Fiji towards the Olympic Games, which Fiji will be defending in July in France. The second thing that Fiji rugby fans are waiting for is the naming of the Flying Fijians head coach. RNZ Pacific has been told that the Attorney General, Siromi Turanga, had told FRU last week to follow the rules, Immigration Act in Fiji, which says that the understudy should be given the job once he has gone through the period that he was supposed to be understudy with, and Seruvakula, one of the two who had been shortlisted, interviewed, and in the running for the Flying Fijians head coach, is awaiting decision from Fiji Rugby. And Peter Meiji, chairman of the Fiji Rugby Union Trust Board, has said that the decision of the Flying Fijians head coach should be made in a week or two. But Ben Collins has been sacked, and Osia Colin Sau takes over as the new Fiji Sevens coach, going towards the Olympic Games, in July in France.
And I'm sure we'll have more on that later on. Oceania Football have some tournaments coming up. What is the updates on that?
Yes, definitely a lot of football happening over the next few months, with OFC having drawn pools for the OFC Under-19 men's football qualifying tournament. Will be held in Vanuatu from April 9 to the 15th. Women's Under-16 will be held in Auckland, New Zealand from June 14th to the 20th. And the OFC Futsal Men's Champions League will be held in New Caledonia on April 23rd to the 28th. So 3 Oceania football competitions happening over the next few months, and interesting to see how these tournaments will play out and which teams will qualify to go into the FIFA tournaments. Of course, the Oceania tournaments are qualifiers for FIFA tournaments later on in the year, or towards 2025 and 2026.
Regional sports events this weekend around Pasifika. What are some of the highlights that we can look forward to?
Yes, certainly in Vanuatu football, the semi-finals of the EU Bon Marche ABM Cup will be held on Saturday in Port Vila. Some of Vanuatu's best football clubs will be playing in the semi-finals, including the Fury Blackbird, who played in the Oceania Club Championship in the last 2 years. In Papua New Guinea, the SPG PNG Hunters will be meeting Manly Seagulls in their opening host plus rugby league game on Saturday at the Santos National Football Stadium. Also in Fiji, another round of the Fiji Skippers Cup, Fiji Rugby Union Skippers Cup competition, which will feature men's, women competition in the different grades, and Fiji Football Association Premier League competition also continues with round 4 in Fiji over the weekend. Also archery in Vanuatu, which is something that is also building in the region. Vanuatu archery looking to put together competitions that they can have their local players play in as they get funding to be able to help develop the game in Vanuatu. So of course, busy weekend again of sports across the region. And you have Pasifika players playing in the Super Rugby competition and the National Rugby League competition also in Australia. So a lot of sports to look forward to, and we will be carrying results in our Pasifika Sipoti rep on Monday.
That's Pacific Waves for today. To listen back, head over to rnzi.com/programs. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whāsui fua.